so much for tuning in this Sunday evening for Sunday at Mike's, our live stream we do every Sunday evening, 11 p.m. Central European Time. Thank you so much for showing up. I start each and every program by starting out by saying that time is a valuable thing. And so for tuning in. It's greatly appreciated. Get a little feedback. Let me turn that off. Well, I think everything is fine here. Don't know what the feedback is. It's interesting. Always something new on YouTube. I hope that you guys can hear me well. I hope that this is coming across. Um, yeah, this week at the studio, nothing really big happened. I made a few purchases and got some interesting deals on a couple of interesting guitars this month that are going to be coming in. An unboxing that we're going to do coming up here shortly. One of them is actually a Greco, and you can see a picture of it is at the house of my agent in Japan on my community page. So if you want to take time to take a look at that, you can check that Greco out. It's a beauty from 1978. I love Strats in natural for reason. I know everybody likes the classic white Strat, but I myself, I'm a real, knocker for Strat in natural, and this one is in natural. So take a look at it. It's on my community post page, and you can see what I'm talking about. Yeah, guys, not a whole lot going on here this week. Um, I had to put, unfortunately, that R8 that I just got into the shop to have it checked out because something was funky with the USB board, but I expect to get that back tomorrow. Um, yeah, really just a slow week here, which is good. I like it when it's slow. Ben Mike, my man, how's everything? Coming across great. Oh, good. And Ben's here. He deleted what he said. Keep it nice, Ben. Um, yeah, going well, man. Everything's going good. I'm glad you let me know the sound is coming across well. I appreciate that. Um, yeah, honestly, guys, I do these live streams and I try to talk about subjects that I find interesting. And I try to talk about things that I think that you will find interesting, especially if you're interested in guitars. And maybe if you're just a casual person and you're floating by and you know nothing about guitars at all, maybe you might find this content to be interesting. So I do appreciate everybody that shows up for it. But I think that sometimes the main message that I'm trying to get across gets lost in a lot of other points. And I think the main message that I'm trying to get across is um, the title of tonight's live stream. Don't be any guitar maker's fanboy. Now, I recently got a comment down in the comment section of one of my live streams. And I encourage comments down there because I reply to each and every one. And also, it gives me interesting, sometimes topics to talk about because people bring up things. Also, sometimes it's just good to know you're there. Good to know you're paying attention. Because sometimes I think in class, some people aren't paying attention. It's like my old teacher, somebody in class is paying attention. It's like looking at you. But somebody in class definitely hasn't been paying attention. I got this comment that said, "You keep knocking Fender for rehashing the same guitars." Well, they are their guitars. They design them. They aren't copying other people's design like your Japanese friends. Now, other than the backhanded comment towards the Japanese, a lot of incorrect statements there. Actually, um, I pointed out that it was Fender that reached out to Tokai. And we're going to have a Tokai ST50 here coming in with the Greco. You guys can see one of not one of the guitar that made Fender go overseas, get in contact with the Tokai people and say, hey, why don't you start making Fenders for us over here? And so no, it wasn't. They weren't making as this guy copying other people's designs. No, they were actually perfecting them and making them better to the point where the original guys, okay, that made the design. Well, not even the original guys. This is CBS by that point. Had bought out the original owners. Um, they were impressed to the point where they said, "Hey, we need to get on this bandwagon." So, you know, I find that comment to be very interesting. I see the bots are here tonight. Hey, bots, just want to welcome you beforehand before we get started. Always appreciate you being around. One question, Stefan says. Sure, man, any question? So don't be a fan. Um, you know, that also that statement, that comment shows a little bit of being a fanboy for Fender. Just a little bit of a hint there. And it got me thinking about tonight's live stream because really, the point again was don't be a fanboy. Don't get into what it says on the headstock. You know, grown man, like Liberace. Sorry, old Prince. But you know, really, you should be looking for that quality versus cost that I was talking about in the last live stream, and you forego any concerns about its origins if it's legit. The fanboys of Gibsons, I think, are unredeemable. So if you're a Gibson fanboy, I'm afraid I find you extremely unredeemable. You know, a lot of reasons. But everybody else, pretty much, you can overcome. You can overcome that desire, that strong need and urge to become a fanboy for Gibson or Fender or PR, whoever, by exploring the other options. In my case, I bring to you a lot of 70s guitars and 80s guitars to show you that the options out there, even in the case of the Japanese, my Japanese friends, as this comment says, that got so good at it again that it led Fender to say, why don't you make these for us over here in Asia? And you have to think to yourself, oh, gee, maybe I should take a look at those instruments and see, you know, what it is that was so great. I mean, you might find out something really, really good. Messi or Ronaldo? Ronaldo. So that's an easy one. That's an easy question there. um, so tonight we're talking about a phenomenon that's become really prevalent. Become a fanboy for guitar brands, and you know you see that a lot as well. You know, on YouTube, you can tell the guys who are kind of fanboys for certain instrumentors, and you can tell the people who are really just looking for a quality instrument. Those are the guys that I kind of gravitate towards, and and they're not the biggest channels either. Interestingly enough. Matty Two Hats in the house. Hey rockers. Anyone bring some bot repellent? No, we got the bots tonight. We're gonna have the bots for a while, man. Like I said, I have been set upon by forces that did not like my reply to their request to try to hijack my channel. So they have definitely sunk a lot of bots on me, but I find them sometimes interesting. Sicked a lot of bots on me. Sometimes I find it interesting. By the way, guys, you know it's bad when I'm drinking my cherry cider. It's actually quite delicious here in the Netherlands, cider. So, extreme brand loyalty that might blind us to great options outside a preferred brand. That's in a nutshell what I'm trying to get across with each and every. I mean, I come at it from a lot of different angles to keep it interesting. I have to do 2 live streams a week. I have to keep in mind that I don't want to repeat myself, but I can attack a certain issue from a lot of different viewpoints, a lot of different ways. But it really just boils down to fighting that desire to have extreme brand loyalty that might blind you to great options outside preferred brand. It can affect our views on other brands. It can cause a bias towards original brands over newer or overseas brands. In other words, I want a PRS, USA as opposed to a PRS made in Indonesia. Those aren't real PRSs. It gets into that kind of minutia. Hell, back in the 70s, the reason why 70s Gibsons were so widely rejected is because they weren't made to the same specs as the ones in the 50s. And the guys who were playing them said these aren't real, even though they were made in the same factory by the same people, basically, perhaps to a certain point until they moved. The Gibson fanboys of that era were rejecting. That's another one of the reasons they were rejecting those 70s Gibsons. So this kind of mentality can get really deep, and it can get into not the minutia of the band that supposedly you're a fanboy of, what's proper and what's not. The refusal to acknowledge innovation outside one's favorite brand. That again was some of the things that Gibson was doing in the 70s were actually innovations of what they were doing in the 50s and the 60s. But these innovations, changing it from a long neck tenon to the transition tenon to the short tenon, during that period of time being one of them, that again, a lot of Gibson fanboys of that era did not like at all. They found it quite, what's the word I'm trying to find? Like it was heretics were making them. Who are these evil folks changing our Gibsons? And so there is that. Now, fanboyism can lead to people to ignore quality options simply because of a logo. And again, this is the basic gist I took from the comment that I got down in my comment section of the last live stream regarding Japanese copies. And just one guy who was talking about these Japanese Fenders like they're some kind of alien race to American Fenders. And again, when they weren't Fender on the headstock of Greco or Tokai, they were still kicking ass, really. And then this ST50 and that's coming, and the SE500 Greco that's coming. You guys want to see some strats? These are some strats, okay? Japanese really took their time in producing these. So much, like I said, they impressed Fender Japan editions. The guitar industry is rife with fanboys and bias. Even the people that in it have strong opinions of branding. Well, yeah, Maddie. Which brings up a kind of a tie-in. I like KDH's channel, as you guys know. I like that guy a lot. He's an excellent guitar player, and he's a very smart guy. And I believe recently, his most recent upload, he was talking about the end of guitar magazines and the fact that most of these guitar magazines will no longer be available in print or at all. Some will continue to be online, but they will no longer continue to be in print. And one of the points that he was making was the bias in those magazines that drove a lot of people away. The infomercials, the paid content. I've talked about that before. These are things that have, repercussions. And we can see from the demise of the guitar magazine that, going in these kind of biases will turn off the consumer. That and the price of the magazines. Shredding Finn. Never felt too attached to any brand. If money was no object, I'd probably buy a custom shop from all the major manufacturers. And then you would turn, okay, so you get yourself a Fender custom shop, and then you turn around and get yourself again, one of these Tokai, like an ST 800, you know, ST 80. You're talking about a guitar that will rival that custom shop at a fraction of the, either way. Like I said, there are options out there if you can break free from that. Feel okay. Please repent for your sinful lifestyle. Daily. Happy Sunday, Tommy Mac. Back to you. I own several guitars dispersed through several brands. Buy what you like, but also embrace experimenting with different sounds and feels. I agree with that. As a producer, as an engineer, one of the musician, composer, one of the things I'm always doing is looking for different sounds. One of the reasons, again, I switched from Telecaster to Les Pauls is because I wanted a deeper sound in the bridge position. And yeah, so that's a quest that we should all be on. Made two hats. Phil K, we repent so hard, bro. Yeah, we do. As I'm sitting here, alcohol. Yeah, I'm doing great. So this bias. Now, of course, there's a reason why these brands became iconic. Of course, we've talked about it ad nauseum on this channel. And I don't want to get into it too much. I know there's people out there who may not know, and the bots may not be aware of this. But just a brief overview, generally Fender and Gibson became iconic because they had iconic bands, guitar players, guitarists, and bassists who used their instruments. And this tie-in with nostalgia, with catch, as I like to call it, because they're cousins to each other, and music, of course, that's the vehicle which the catch is achieved, have made these brands into what they are today, household names, just like the musicians that played them. Now, PRS was very smart. He reached out and got Carlos Santana signed up. And that tied in PRS with a certain sound with Santana. I with you, when I think of Santana, I do think of him when he started playing PRS guitars. That's when it really, I loved his Yamaha 2000 that he played. Back, especially on the Oneness album, one of my favorite Santana albums. But his tone really came through at PRS, and that made that guitar iconic through that tie-in through Santana. So that's how that works, basically. Culture, big artists playing specific guitars, and the history tie-ins with these major brands that shape our perceptions. And these brands became synonymous with certain engineers of styles as well. For example, when you think about rock, you think about Gibson. It's just the way it is. It's the truth of the matter. Although, going back to the Greco that I have coming, the Tokai that I have coming, the ST50, Steve Vaughan played a Tokai ST50. You can find, as a matter of fact, there's an album cover with him with a Tokai ST50. He didn't care if it was a Fender or not. He cared about, on the headstock, he cared about if it was a good Strat. It just so happened these are Strats that later on became Fenders. But I throw that out there as well as an aside. But certain brands are synonymous with certain genres or styles of music. And so, of course, this is going to fuel fan loyalty towards those brands. You're not going to see too many shredders on a Jazzmaster. If you understand, if you get my meaning, if you catch my drift. Frederick Rogers in the house. Hello, Mr. Rogers. How you doing? Welcome to the neighborhood. Good to see you. DK Randika says, ganja, ganja, smoke joint. Ganja, ganja. Yeah, I'm in Amsterdam. You can't swing a dead cat without hitting somebody smoking a joint, whether you want to spin or not. Such a pleasant thing to walk out of your house early in the morning to walk your dog and to run into a big fat cloud of weed smoke. Just lovely. So, welcome, DK. Thank you for your thoughts on ganja. Those are mine. Now, I talked about the historical context of Japanese manufacturers like Tokai and their rise in the 70s and 80s throughout this discussion tonight. I've hit upon it a few times. And again, I've been over it ad nauseum on this channel. I don't want to hit on it too much again, but I will touch upon it for those who may not know. Again, the bots who may not know that the real history of Japanese guitar comes out of that they really were growing trees in Japan originally to produce Singer sewing machines. If any of you, I've said this before, if any of you are out there old enough to remember when your grandma or your mom, in my case, had, or in both cases, had a Singer sewing machine and it had a wooden stand that it came in. And those stands were produced in Japan from Japanese wood. Well, the whole home sewing thing kind of went out. They had to find something else to do. And they decided to really go full-fledged into guitar manufacturing for a lot of reasons that I'm not going to get into tonight. But they made that shift over into guitar manufacturing. And when they did, they flew over to the States. And like in the case of the before mentioned Tokai SD50 that I have coming, they picked up 1958 Strat, brought it back to Japan, took all the measurements in the world on it, broke it down, analyzed it, and made their version of it. And their version ended up including the pickups, including the sound. They did the sound of pickups and they wound pickups to get as close to that as they could. So again, this is one of the reasons why Fender reached out to Japanese manufacturers like Tokai, giving the birth to Fender Japan, as I've said. And there's a big difference between cheap knockoffs and well-made licensed products crafted to a high standard by a Japanese makers. There's a big difference. So again, to the comment guy, I want to say to you, we're not talking about cheap knockoffs. Okay? We're talking about handmade. There was no CNC. Okay? These were handmade guitars up until the 90s. Handmade. Okay, again, you want to get a custom shop handmade Fender? Okay, then get yourself, an SD50 or 80. And there you go. You've got one. Again, if you truly don't care about what's on the headstock, which you really shouldn't. So these are well-made licensed products that I'm talking about now, crafted by Japanese luthiers who were extremely talented at what they did. So again, this is really all about keeping an open mind. Keeping an open mind. Keeping an open mind. Now, you can keep an open mind in a lot of things in your life. It just doesn't extend to guitars. I like the metaphor that I use about YouTube being a high school cafeteria. And we all have our tables. You got the Pokemon card guys in that corner. You've got the fishing pole guys over here, and you got the guitar over here. And at these tables, each of us, the lawnmower guys, the golf club guys, whatever, in each one of those instances, I'm sure that there are quality versus cost alternatives that they should be looking at. So again, this discussion and this viewpoint, this frame of mind, if you will, is not just for this. It's for all aspects of things that you come across in your life. You know, a friend of mine wanted to get the Apple Fit watch, and I said, I'm sure that those, but they're quite pricey here. Apple Store, I can see the Apple Store from this window here, down the street on the Lies Plain. I'm that close. But honestly, I said there's got to be an alternative out there to this Apple Watch that does just as much, but it's cheaper. And he found one, and he showed it to me. Like, pretty sweet. It's actually pretty nice. You know, so are all aspects of life that this kind of mentality can reach out to and help you in saving money and saving money. At the end, it's really about saving money and being happy with what you got too. There's no better feeling than getting something that you really like at a great price. That's the best feeling. If you're going to go into the complete consumerism mode, that's, you know, bliss. and you can achieve that without, you know, blowing a lot of money. My wife's starting a youth sewing club. Long now, shredding Finn says, "Yeah, I guess it comes back. Everything comes back in waves, man. You know, that was a big thing. I learned how to use a sewing machine. You know, my mother taught me how to use it, and that's a skill that I have not used in over 40 years, 4 decades. You know, maybe more. So that's about right. Yeah. So, you know, it's just one of those things. When I'm walking here in the streets in Amsterdam, I'm seeing the fashions, and these people are dressing like folks used to dress back in the 80s. I'm like, hey, wait a minute. Those folks, young folks, are dressed like we used to dress in high school back in the 80s. When it comes around. Mastering Silence says, you're 1,000% correct, sir. Thank you. I appreciate that, man, very much. And welcome. Welcome to the channel. And by the way, now we're at the halfway point. I do want to remind you guys that if you haven't done so yet, please hit the like button. That helps with the YouTube algorithm. Also, if you like what you see here and what you're hearing, we do this twice a week, as well as regular content on my channel. Filmed in 4K, filmed in 4K, that you can enjoy if you subscribe to this channel. I have a subscription goal that I'm trying to reach. I'm halfway there, which again, I'm happy about. At least I got halfway there. But I'd like to get as close to all the way there, obviously. So please hit the subscription button. Join into this great community that we have growing here all the time, full of really great guys, and women, I have to say. I'm very, very pleased with the community that we're building here, and the bots. We always said we have some cool bots here too. So something for everybody. So please do that. Yeah, you know, you really have to learn how to judge guitars based on playability, the build quality, the sound, rather than the brand or the origin. Now, I have played, not even trying to count it out, let's just say conservatively a shitload of Gibson Les Pauls and SGs and others. At this point, now I have gone through quite a number of modern and vintage Strats, Fender and otherwise. And what I'm looking for is the playability. I've had some, you've heard this story before about Gibsons that weren't so great. I've had some Gibsons that were not so great. For a lot of different reasons. Either the pickups, well, okay, I'll raise them, I'll lower them, I'll play around with them, trying to set up the intonation so that it works better. That stuff, and it still didn't bite. I've had some that growled. I've had some that were just absolute killer. But again, I'm evaluating this not on the headstock. Well, even though it sounds shitty, I'll keep it anyway because it says Fender. as opposed to this Tokai that sounds way better and is just as cool and is a lot cheaper. But no, gotta have Fender on the headstock. Fanboy. Getting back to that, you're being a fanboy at that point. Pure and simple. Pure and simple. You gotta try out different brands that you may have overlooked, or you may have judged them too quickly. There's a lot of fear there. I understand that you're getting out of your comfort zone. If I'm asking you to reach out across the seas, wherever you are, or maybe you're there. Well, actually, the point would be moot if you were there. But reaching out overseas to Japan and trying to find some guitars when you're in the market to get one, or looking for one in that market and finding something that looks pretty nice and maybe selling one of the two of the guitars that you currently have in order to fund getting and trying out a Japanese guitar. You will not be sorry. You will not be sorry. Matty Two Hats, Krishna from India. I suppose that checks out. Yeah, let's see. Russian rockers in the house. Yeah. You from I am India. Krishna, you are India. What is this, an ad? Like I am India. it's like the I am Amsterdam down here at the museum plane. Okay, I agree with you, Maddie. That checks out. Sounds legit to me. You know, guitars are tools for making music at the end of the day, and they should always be chosen on what feels and sounds the best to you, regardless of the branding. I'm going to read that again. Guitars are tools for making music, and they should always reflect the choices that you make with your guitar. But the feel of it feels good to you, the sound sounds good to you, regardless of the headstock branding, regardless of what is on the headstock. You know, and again, you know, Harley Bentons are really good basses. The JB75 is a great jazz bass. It is heavy as hell. It does not take away from the fact that it's a good recording bass, but it is heavy. And so from a feel standpoint, I've had Fenders that were lighter that felt better to play. But again, they didn't sound, or they sounded the equivalent to that Harley Benton. So again, when I'm judging guitars, I'm looking at a lot of aspects, not what it says on the headstock. That's not really relevant. What's really relevant is how does it sound in the end? How does it feel? Sometimes it works out the way it should. I'm not saying, by the way, I'm not saying the Harley Benton's a bad bass. I used it for recording half of my last album. And I doubt anyone could tell the difference between that and the Fender bass that I was using for the first half. But there are differences there that, you know, that are not great, you know, I will admit, but doesn't take away from one of the aspects that it sounds really damn good. Now, brands today outsource production or collaborate with factories worldwide. We know this. We know that Indonesia basically went from Japan to Korea to China to Indonesia, and the next move, kids, is going to be India. I've been saying that for a while. You know, don't be surprised if you see Epiphone move to India with the geopolitical problems going on in China, with the exodus of many foreign-owned companies, businesses, that is, as we speak, Foxconn is moving out, for example. Honestly, a move to India would be a good move for them. The question is what will be the quality of those guitars in the first couple of years as they begin to retool the factory to get it up and going once they've set it up. and the quality of the people they have work guitars. So something to think about. This outsourcing is just going to continue. It's just going to get bigger and bigger. Term American made are starting to mean less about quality than they did in the past. See, when it was stamped American made, there was a time when that meant something. And it was in direct competition with made in Japan. There was a time when people disdained, I don't want a Japanese car. you know, but then that became, I don't want a Chinese toaster. Uh, you know, but as the quality of the products from Japan, for example, began to increase and began to get better and better and better, and show their quality at a good value, the Made in America branding began to mean less and less to consumers. Mad Two Hats, party y'all, take a shot when a bot comments. Bot shots, okay. Well, I gotta take several shots to catch up. Mad Two Hats, murderer, I guess I do eat a lot of chicken. Anyways, back to the guitars. Maddie, you're killing it tonight. Thank you, man. Thank you for answering these bots for me. I appreciate it very much. Yeah, you're talking about murdering. I murdered some chicken yesterday myself. I made a really good sweet and sour chicken. I even had to step back and ask who the hell made it. It was that good. We talked about how brands reissue old models, which was what the guy was hacking on, because I was talking about the rehashing, he put it, and leaning on nostalgia. And again, it was another thing that he missed the point on, because the main point of that is that they're reissues of old models that are leaning on nostalgia, and the prices are going up. See that part of, because the fanboy in him, oh no, you can't talk about my Fender guys like that, You're not listening to what I'm saying. They're increasing the prices on you while they're doing the same thing they did last year. Or rehashing something they did 5 years ago that worked out. So again, a lot of stuff in that was not so. Now, you gotta appreciate what every brand brings to the table. Gibson brings great things to the table. I'd have to say that Gibson pickups, my favorite, as you know, the 490 and the 490 AT, are some of my favorite. Those are actually really some of my favorite pickups. And their pickups are great. Fender, also with the Telecaster, the Jazzmaster, the different items, the basses that they have, they bring something to the table. Diversity of things that they have. And the Japanese brands, Tokai, Greco, they bring something to the table in terms of the quality, value, versus the price. So they all bring something to the table. And they all have great things across these various brands. And there are some that surprise me in quality and sound. Again, sound, the Harley Benton JB75 surprised me in terms of sound. There have been a lot of things out there that surprised me negatively in terms of sound. I still can't get into Gretsch guitars. I had a Gretsch in, as you remember, a Jetstar, a Gold Star, or Jetstar, something like that. And I just couldn't get into the way it felt, the way the neck felt, pickup, sound, all of that stuff really just wasn't really working for me. This really wasn't working for me. So there's that. All right. Now, it's important to keep an open mind and be brand agnostic when it comes to gear, being brand agnostic. This is really going to save you a lot of money in the end. And you should be researching, if you're going to buy a pocket knife, then you should research every freaking pocket knife out there and try to find the best value and quality. If you make a purchase, don't just go with Ace Brothers pocket knives because they're the #1 selling pocket knife. I'm sure that there are competitors out there to them. You know, that's the whole point of capital. We're not communists after all. That line from The Godfather. So, you know, there are alternatives out there, I'm sure. And you should be spending your time looking for them. Mastering Silence. I recently gifted a Harley TE80 Deluxe. It's such a great guitar. Yeah, I had a TE80, and it was a great guitar. I gave it away to Ukrainian children's musician, organization. It was a great guitar. Matty Two Hats. My guitar heroes all play Gibson and Fender. Again, the tie-in. But the corporatism of these brands turned me off so hard, and also the prices. Well, you know, it's that moving over to a lifestyle brand that I think really just left a distasteful taste in a lot of people's mouths, certainly mine, because I understood where that came from. And again, that shift going into lifestyle brands made them seem even more of just anti the spirit of what it is they're really supposed to be promoting. Because of shit about hats and t-shirts and watches and things like that. You know, if you're, you know, coming from our viewpoint at this table in the cafeteria. Let me quiet that. Yeah, just something to think about. The best guitar is the one that fits you, not necessarily the one with the most famous logo. You know, I've said it 5 different ways tonight. I think, in order to try to get that point across to you, that, you know, again, don't be a fanboy. I just, you know, the reason I wrote the script tonight is because of that comment, because it was such a fanboy thing to say that I said, you know what, I don't usually address the fanboys when they show up in the comment section, but let's go after them tonight, including, take a JPEG that I created for tonight's live stream. It's a guy in a dress, a schoolgirl uniform, jumping up, you know, excitedly with his guitar. Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. Don't be a fanboy for any brand. It's the Disneyfication of guitars. Yeah, man. We go to Disneyland, the first thing you walk through the entrance is the gift shop. And on the way out, too. Oh, what a coincidence. What a coinky dink. And they're doing the same thing with Gibson, you know. You'll be seeing, you know, there were starter kits for Squier. I've got one from the early 2000s that were actually really good guitars. The SE100s came out here in Europe, as an SE100. Great guitars, full body Strats. But they were selling them at Walmart. One of these days you're going to walk into Walmart and you're going to see Les Pauls. Trust me. Along with the hat, the mug, the t-shirt, you know, and all the things that go along with that. Do you like a Telecaster? I love Telecasters. Most of my albums, 90% of my albums in TV commercial and work that I did in studios for other artists was done on a Telecaster. Telecasters are my favorite electric guitars. So versatile and feel good unless you need more frets. Yeah, I never did. Never had a problem with that. Mastering Silence. Omar Zaman, I think a Telecaster is one of the easiest guitars that you can play because you can move up and down so fast. So yeah, the scale has a lot to do with Telecaster, but the versatility of the sounds of that. I say again, and I've said it 1,000 times, that the Telecaster is a Swiss Army knife of guitars. It even has a little, a corkscrew on it. Which, by the way, did you guys know that only officers got the Swiss Army knife, the corkscrew on it? The enlisted men, their army knife didn't. The Swiss Army did not have a corkscrew. Fun fact. Sheldon Cooper would say. Ben Olmark, I'm a huge Tele fanboy too, right behind my Strats. Look, these are Fender, again, diversity of instruments. On YouTube, there are interviews with the guy who designed the guitars, and he discusses why he named them what he named them, what inspired the Telecaster, because it was to be casted on television, so they wanted something that, was the broadcaster. Again, these were all named as radio and television type, what they intended them to use for. And just brilliant stuff. They gave us a diversity of jazz masters, gave us a lot of stuff. So again, that's their strength, and that's a strength that they really should hype up more, as opposed to some of the other things that they do. Omar says, what is your favorite app? Do you think there's a difference between how much wattage, I'm sorry, not, you said amp, I think you said amp. Difference between how much wattage, if you have 100, 200, 300 watt, what do you think? Well, Omar, I think the age of the Marshall stacks and heads are dead. If you go down to music stores, you will see a plethora of 2x12, 4x12 stacks and heads that are just sitting there gathering dust, because nobody wants to bring that into their apartment or their house. Very few people have a recording studio soundproof enough to handle that kind of wattage. And most clubs and bars will throw you out if you show up with that equipment. I think that anything in the 50 watt range or lower is your best bet. My favorite amp has been for over a decade now, coming up on a decade. Yeah, a decade now coming up on almost here, is my Laney Club 12 first version, not the version 2, the first version, with my 1972-73 greenback in it. That's a killer amp. If that answers that question. But low wattage. I did a whole live stream talking about going out there and buying up as many, if you find them at a good value, 1x12 combo amps that you can, because that, if you're talking about investments in the future, that's a good solid investment, because those will always be in demand. Those will always be in demand. I have 2 amps, solid state, tube amp, solid state. Both of them are 1x12s. So I practice what I preach. How much did it cost? Well, they don't make them anymore. They make the version 2, I still do believe, and I bought mine in Singapore in 2015. So there's that. I can't remember how much that was. I rock a 1 watt these days. There's the 1 watt amps that will blow. I had them in Singapore, that little itty bitty, it's those tube amp that I have. You have to go back in my content, go back to Singapore days and look for it. Was a 5 watt amp, and that thing kicked butt. It's all you needed. 1 watt really is all you need for, honestly, seriously. It's plenty loud, as Maddie just said. So, think about that stuff, guys. Think about it. If you're not playing live, and they're not going to let you in the club with that, if you come in with a 1x12, they'll give you a pass. If you come in with a 2x12, you're pushing it. You come in with a stack, you're hitting bricks. You're definitely hitting bricks. And that's just the way it is. And so, Don't be a fanboy. Don't be a fanboy. I'm not. I never was. It's, I get excited. I'm a catch and release guy, as you know. But I am truly excited about this coming set of strats that I have coming, and to feel and play them, because these are the cat's meow when it comes to Japanese copies at this point, and then later on official branded. But I'm excited, and it's because, again, I'm excited about the quality. I'm not excited whether it says Fender or Tokai or Greco on the headstock, because there's good examples, again, of all three of those. But I'm excited to get early ones to see what the brouhaha was about. And made Fender get on an airplane from Corona, California, Fullerton, California, and fly all the way heck over to Japan and say, hey guys, why don't you make these for us? Omar, another question. Do you think you use a lot of effects and sound effects and things like that when you could do that on your app that you got? Well, it's a sound issue, man. There's no way the amp is going to sound as good as a 1973 Echoplex. Believe me, I've tried. I've had the real thing, and I've had different pedals and amps, and none of them hit the real thing. An analog pedal setup is going to give you a different sound than its exact digital counterpart. Do you like it? It comes down to a preference, what you like. Again, what I like for something may not be what you like. But I use pedals. I'm setting up my pedal board for recording. Actually, I'm going to get Moer Radar. I've decided. I'm going to use a Moer Radar, my pedal board that I have set up, and that's what I'm going to use to record these additional tracks for the album that I'm putting out. So excited about that. Get it on the Moer Radar. It's been out long enough. There's enough third-party software developers for it that I don't have to worry about them pulling the plug on it, and it's got a good reputation. 6-7 years. Yeah, I trust it, so this is the one I'm going. Plus, for 139 euros, you really can't beat that for what it does. By the way, getting into the conversation between Ben, Allmark, and Maddie regarding the one white combo, that Laney has a built-in attenuator in it. You can go between 1 watt, or you can go up to its full 15. So, I always kept it in the 1 watt. When you see me demoing it on my regular content videos, that's in the 1 watt position. So, I'm just saying, it's plenty of... Mastering Science, what is your artist name? Well, if you go to my main page, you will see my band, asanoki.com. Click on that, and you can go to bandcamp.com, look up, or you can go to bandcamp.com and look up Asanoki, and you will find my band and enjoy it. It's good music. Omar is asking the same question about what style. Go to my main page. Up there, there's a link that you can click, and you'll see what kind of music I like. I'm a rock guy. I always have been. I'm a keyboardist, a drummer, a bass player, mandolin player. I've played I played French in high school, tuba even, trombone. I played a lot of instruments in my time. But at heart, I'm a rocker. So don't be any guitar maker's fanboy is the title of tonight's discussion. I think I've beaten that one to death. I think I've gone over that enough and it made my point. Again, to the commenter, I don't mean to be rude. and do a whole hour-long show on your comment. That's the attention. Really, it's just I just don't think you were paying attention in class. The point of all of this is don't be a fanboy for any guitar manufacturer. And don't dismiss things so easily just because it doesn't say Fender or Gibson or PRS on the headset, or even Epiphone for that matter. Seriously, you should be looking for quality first, and then versus price. Quality, how good of quality? Am I getting, laurel, Indian laurel, or am I getting rosewood? And list from there. Am I getting chrome or am I getting nickel? These are the things that you should be asking yourself. And why am I limiting it to a modern guitar? Why not reach out to the past and look into 70s and 80s guitar, 90s guitars? I think the drums are very hard to play. My friend plays 5 different instruments, and you try to show him how to play drums, and I suck at it. Yeah, I don't play drums anymore. It's the one instrument that I've given up, A, because I don't have the studio space that I had in my place in Singapore, studio in Singapore, and B, I have a drum pad, and I do that now. That's pretty nice for recording, but it's just something I gave up. If I sat down, I guess I'd give it a lick, but it's just, physically it's something that I don't. Yes, I made it. I didn't miss it. Yes, Sharon, thank you so much for making it, not missing it. But we're done now. We're wrapping it up. A lot of people don't like Yamaha because it's from Japan or something. I've seen them. Yeah, there's some nice Yamaha guitars out there, man. Again, like I said, doesn't have to be Greco, doesn't have to be Ibanez, it doesn't have to be whatever. It can be a Yamaha. There are some fantastic guitars from Japan. As a matter of fact, some of the best electric guitars that ever made were made in the 70s and early 90s in Japan, in the world. And I'll stand by the statement. My Japanese friends. The Yamaha Strats from the 90s are amazing. I agree. And those are the ones that shredders use and look for, believe it or not, because there's certain qualities to those guitars that appeal to that genre of music. So again, something for everybody. All right, guys, we have reached the end of the Sunday night at Mike's. I'm trying that one out. Sunday Mike's is cool, but the Sunday night at Mike's, that has kind of a ring to it. I like that. I appreciate each and every one of you guys showing up each and every time. So in this channel, I want to thank the bots for showing up tonight and keeping me entertained. No, I'm not Obama. Try another one. I think that this community that we have grown here is fantastic. I enjoy sitting down for an hour around 5 o'clock on Sunday and writing a script for these live streams on a topic that I'm hitting on a lot of different angles. But it just boils down to just really look for quality. Look for quality, guys. You should always be looking for quality in everything. Look for quality in your friends. You look for quality in the place that you go to work. You look for quality in your own work, I hope. So why not are you extending that out to cars? You look for quality with your car. You're not going to spend a lot. You're going to try to find quality versus, in this case, versus price. The Antichrist mark of the beast equipment is on the back of his wrist, and key mark of beast you during handshake on your right wrist, and permanent hell awaits you and me for it. Not me, buddy. I ain't shaking nobody's hand like that. You put that on yourself, not on me. You guys take care. Good hang, guys, tonight. Thank you so much. I will talk to you. Have a good week, guys. I will see you this Wednesday. Take care. Bye-bye.